Hey, what is up, nerds, geeks, and collectors alike? Today we are taking a look at the Marvel Legends Avengers Endgame Ironman Mark 85.
Better hustle, Cap. Things look like they're just about wrapped up here.
Got it. I'm approaching the elevator now.
All right, Cap, I got our scepter in the elevator just passing the 80th floor.
And this is without a doubt one of my personal favorite Iron Man armor to appear in the MCU. That's due to the fact that this armor is very reminiscent of the old comic book Iron Man armor with the added and modernized details, but the color scheme and of course translated very beautifully in figure form. But first, let's take a close look at the packaging. Here we have Marvel Legends. It is based from the Avengers Endgame. It is Iron Man Mark 85. And at the side here, we have an artwork of Iron Man. Very cool. And as you can see here, I've already opened the figure. And here we have the same artwork of Iron Man, as well as his bio. And here we have a build-a-figure Thor. What you have to do is collect all of these other characters in order to complete Thor. This has been a trend from Marvel for quite some time now, even back from the Toy Biz days. But unfortunately, sometimes there are characters that you just don't want to get, but you have no choice unless you don't want to complete the figure. And here we have the similar artwork from the other side, and at the top here we have the Avengers A, and at the side of this packaging here we have the build a figure Thor, and at the bottom it's just your typical legal mumbo jumbo as well as the UPC. And that's about it for the packaging of the Marvel Legends Avengers Endgame Iron Man Mark 85. Now let's get this guy out of packaging. And here we have the Iron Man armor, and presumably Tony Stark's very last armor that we are going to see him wear. Presumably, that is. Hopefully he comes back either in a flashback or overall just a comeback for Robert Downey Jr. And what I mean is, in Avengers Endgame there is a time jump, and 5 years is a pretty long time. There is without a doubt that something must have happened in between those 5 years before Ant-Man got out of the quantum realm. But taking a close look at the figure, it is beautifully painted and sculpted with the gold, red, and some of the silver bits. But first, let's take a close look here at the arm of Thor. You know this from the scene of Avengers Endgame where Iron Man rips out Thor's arm. I'm just kidding, this is a piece of the Build-A-Figure. Iron Man comes with the left hand of Thor as well as the interchangeable hand for the time-space GPS, or that's what Tony calls it. And here we have just his regular gloved arm. This arm is also nicely painted and sculpted, but I personally wish this was the black armored bro Thor, since no one actually really cared about his civilian look. And here we have a double jointed elbow, which is pretty tight right here. There we go. And he does come with a bicep swivel as well as a wrist swivel and some wrist articulation. And judging from the socket, or at least the tab on his shoulder, you can bring his arm out and then rotate. And here is the interchangeable hand. What you have to do in a generic Marvel Legends fashion, just firmly grip and just pull that out and switch the arms in, and there you have it. Thor with Thor's hand or arm, excuse me, with the quantum time space GPS. And then moving on to the Nano Infinity Gauntlet. Here we have the Infinity Stones, beautifully sculpted and painted. This is actually for the Smart Hulk, which is another Build-A-Figure, but it is from the first wave, while this figure is from the second wave. Tony Stark made this in order to harness the power of the Infinity Stones, and for Hulk to use in order to bring everyone back.
All right, the gloves are ready.
Good to go? Yeah? Friday, do me a favor and activate barn door protocol, will you?
Yes, boss.
Talk to me, Banner. Don't move it.
And of course, Iron Man would obviously put a feature in this that links it with his nanotech armor. Even without the Nano Gauntlet, Iron Man is able to harness the power of the Infinity Stones thanks to his nanotech armor. And here we have the interchangeable hands. The figure already comes with the two separate hands, so I'm not going to show you how to interchange or how the figure looks like with these hands equipped, since he already has them for opposite sides. And last but not the least, putting these guys aside, here we have the 4 identical blast effect figures. These are blue, a translucent blue, especially translucent at the sides, while the base of the color is giving that effect that it is a energy blast with a little bit of fading effect, if you would call it. And it really looks cool, especially on Iron Man. And in order to install it, all you have to do is just peg this in, and there you have it. There you have Iron Man with this blast effect. If you interchange the other arm, you can also install it, and not to mention you can peg it on his legs, which I will show later on. I do wish Iron Man comes with more accessories, considering his armor is nanotech.
Okay, Thor, hit me.
Boss, wake up!
For posability, Iron Man is on a ball joint, meaning he can do an entire 360. He can look up that far and look down that far. And then for the arms, he can get his arm out that far, do an entire 360, bicep swivel, and a double jointed elbow, as well as some wrist articulation and wrist swivel, and a bend. That goes the same for the repulsor hand. His hand can also bend, which usually isn't the case for Iron Man figures. The repulsor hand tends to be in a repulsor type position. His torso is on a ball joint. Let's just get his hands out of the way. As you can see here, he has a swivel and he can crunch and arc. And let me just fix the figure. He can kick and then move his feet barely. He has a thigh swivel right here, and as well as a double jointed knee, which it should be more organic, but what you can do, it's a figure, and some back and forth movement, as well as a pivot here. And that's about it for the articulation of Iron Man. And I gotta say, it's a fair amount of articulation for Iron Man, considering that he is not the most agile superhero or chooses to fight in hand-to-hand combat, but that doesn't mean he doesn't. He just chooses more of a tech approach when it comes to fighting his enemies. And for size comparison, let's take out the trusted ruler. Iron Man stands a little above 6 inches right here. And let's get some other figures out. Here we have the Marvel Legends Captain America 3-pack Iron Man here, which I think is taller than the Marvel Legends Endgame Mark 85, which I think makes sense personally due to the fact that the Mark 85 is nanotech, and while the Civil War armor was more of a actual armor, since nanotech can just wrap around Tony. And here we have the Marvel Legends Captain America from the 3-pack as well, and for the size, I think they are in scale. Even with the Iron Man figure, I think they are still in scale. That's just the material that Tony Stark uses. That's why the Endgame version is more smaller, since it wraps around him rather than just cover him up. And here we have the Spider-Man, the Marvel Legends Spider-Man from the 3-pack as well. And that's about it. Again, let's take a closer look at the Iron Man figures. I think this is a pretty good scale. This is a realistic scale, if you must, since, like I said, nanotech wraps around him, while the Civil War was more of a plated finish.
Come on, buddy, wake up.
That's my man.
Lose this again? I'm keeping it.
Somewhere under all this. All I know is he doesn't have them. So we keep it that way.
The other half would thrive. Only what it has been given.
So final thoughts on the figure. If you are an absolute Marvel fan, or an MCU fan, or just a general Iron Man fan, this is definitely a must-get figure. And due to the fact that this particular armor is quite the milestone for the character, thanks to the impact of Avengers Endgame, and not to consider that it is currently the highest grossing film of all time, which is an absolute milestone. As a MCU armor, this thing is pretty good and translated very well in figure form, though I wish that he comes with more accessories. I personally think that he shouldn't have come with Thor's Build-A-Figure, since there are tendencies that Build-A-Figure pieces does not come with one character from the same wave. So if you like this video, drop a like and subscribe for more content. Till next time, see ya!